He's born and bred in New Jersey and the heir to a catering fortune. We've got Albie Manzo, and we're so excited. Stay tuned.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AFTERBUZZ TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
I feel like I'm at DJ's in Belmar. It's Labor Day weekend. There's so many Jersey vibes, and I'm loving it. I feel right at home. I'm your host, Fern, Ronay.
Hi guys, it's Stecher.
And we are thrilled to be doing a spotlight on with the original Housewives son that everyone wants to get to know better, Albie Manzo. We're so excited to have you here.
Thank you for having me. I feel right at home with this. This is as Jersey as it gets right now.
It feels good,
I'm ready to play Beat the Clock.
Very nice. Well, thank you, and welcome to sunny California.
Thank you for having me.
It's raining. There's Hurricane Hermine happening on the East Coast, so it's so nice to be here in the warm weather.
I'm finally on this end of it, and usually, like, I have to text my friends on the West Coast when something's like, when it's a mess in September, and they're like, oh, yeah, we're fine. We're good. We're on the beach. And
so do you think you'll ever leave Jersey?
You know what? I talk about this a lot with my brother, and lately, like now that we've gotten older and we're looking at, okay, well, you're going to settle down, buy a house, whatever you're going to do. And it's so insanely expensive for the reason of, oh yeah, like, New York's over there. Like, oh, I've got a really cool friend, you know what I mean? So let's like make everything way more expensive than it has to be. And, we travel a lot now, especially like, with the show and everything and with work. So I spent some time in Chicago. I loved it. I love it here on the West Coast. So we'll have to see. But, I say that, and I don't know if I could be away from, like, really good mozzarella.
Everything's better in Jersey. It's
it
so
really
true.
is.
Because I saw in the previews there was some discussion. We can talk a little bit more about the upcoming season, but I thought I heard some discussion of perhaps people leaving the homeland.
We could get into it.
Okay. But we can start right at the beginning. It all began in Jersey. So, the Brownstone even existed. In the beginning, it was all about the Brownstone. It existed before you were born, right? Because your grandfather started it.
Yeah.
So are all of your childhood memories of just hanging out at the Brownstone?
Yeah, for me, it always had this, like, big looming presence in my life for obvious reasons. But, like, when we grew up I was born, technically speaking, lived above it. Dad had, an apartment there with Mom when they first got married, and we moved to Wayne, like, a little after I was born, like a year or two after I was born. And everybody goes there. I mean, it was their, like, wedding spot, birthday spot, high school reunion spot. And, because of that, it was just kind of like this really big community, and you always felt like super special having that connection with everybody. And I can't imagine, like, it's the single most defining thing I think in our family for obvious reasons. So
And it was your first job. What was your first job?
Yeah, my first job. My father. I want to say I was like 11 years old, and he brought me down to the basement. I'll never forget this. We had these leaky pipes. We had these giant steps that went down to the basement, and just massive puddle. And he came up to me, handed me just a giant, like, push broom, and just said, all right, like, sweep it up into the drain. And there was a drain about, like, 6 feet away that when they would have these leaks where the like, where it would settle, you had to sweep it into. And everything since has been, like, redone. So whenever I tell the story, they're like, all right, what's the big deal? Like, I don't see anything wrong with this. But at the time, like, for me, it felt like, I was in a swamp, basically, and I'm sure it wasn't a big deal. But
that's hard work, though. You had to, like, sweep all the water.
Well, it was just kind of like sweeping the floor downstairs, and then, dishwashing and stuff like that. And then that became, like, whether it was busting tables or working buffet lines and stuff. And, my dad pushed me really hard to go to college, and then subsequently law school. He was really, really big on that. And I had a lot of different jobs, but my brother and sister took to it a little bit more than I did. Lauren and Chris were maitre d', and Chris was there full time for a while, and and Lauren still has a connection too with, like, a lot of the bridal makeup stuff she does. So for me, it was just the type of thing where, as much as I loved it and really respected what they did, I worked really hard to try and create something brand new. So that's really what it was about.
Yeah, you have to trust your gut if that's not if you don't feel the pull toward.
Yeah, you know what it is? I think that my family worked really, really hard to build that up from, if anybody really goes into the history of the Brownstone, what they've done with it. I mean, the place is so much bigger than where it started out. And it's really easy to kind of look at it and say it was like a 30-year overnight success. And my dad and I talk about that a lot. And I look at that as, all right, well, this is a guy that still works 18-hour days, 1 day a week off. And he did that so, he could afford us the opportunity to go and do what we wanted to do and what we love to do. And television kind of came out of nowhere and threw a wrench in a lot of that. You know, it was like really when the first day that we were filmed was my college graduation party. So like for me, it definitely changed things a little bit, but overall, I definitely would have wanted to find something else to do because I just felt like that's why you did it in the first place.
Well, let's talk about TV. Do you remember Real Housewives, like the TV people coming knocking on your door?
Well, it wasn't so much that. It happened in, you really can't make this stuff up. They went to a local salon. And they walked in and they asked the owner, hey, listen, do you know basically 5 crazy women that fit this bill? And they picked out right away Jacqueline, Aunt Dina, and Teresa were the first 3. So I believe Aunt Dina was first. She brought in Jacqueline and Teresa. And they had 2 other women that were friends of Aunt Dina's that dropped out. And they ended up replacing them with Danielle Staub and my mother. Which is wild to think about now.
God,
Yeah.
So, but what's weird about it is I can remember being at Fordham in New York. My phone was ringing, and my mom was like, "Oh yeah, something's going on with some TV thing." And what a lot of people don't know is we actually filmed the first episode of My Big Fat Fabulous Wedding.
I remember that.
Which
for
was
Dina and
Aunt
Tommy,
Dina and Uncle Tommy's wedding. So we had shot a show before.
At the Brownstone.
At the Brownstone.
Yeah.
So like, I was on it for literally half a second, like in the background of a scene, but we filmed for like 3 months. And, we were just kind of around it, and it was like a big, kind of to do at the time. And that wedding itself is just insane.
Right.
But when that happened, it was kind of like, all right, yeah, cool, let us know. And finally one day we met a couple of the producers who are like, our family now. And I remember just coming home from college and getting ready for my graduation party, and there they were. And the very first time we ever had cameras in front of us, me and Chris, we had a conversation. I said, what would be really cool if, you think they'll have our names at the bottom of the screen and like maybe let us say something. And he was like, nah, man, I don't think, like, it's about the wives and stuff, who knows. And they had downtime, and they're in the kitchen with me and Chris, and it was the most awkward thing in the world. And I'm sitting there, and I had a baseball hat on, and we're just kind of joking around. And Chris says to me, this is going to be your last graduation party thing. We're ribbing each other a little bit. It's super, super awkward. And Chris looks at me, and he goes, you know what? You're just a douche, just like that. And all of a sudden, it just kind of became like, all right, you know what? Screw it. Like, they're there, but who cares? Like, let's just kind of be ourselves. And we just started ripping on each other. That's when he says the strip club car wash thing. And that was the first time we were ever on camera, ever. And it's still like one of those scenes people always play when they bring stuff back, which is kind of wild to think about.
I remember the strip club car wash.
Yeah,
feel
I
like
wish we could forget.
Yeah,
the strip
I
club
feel like
car
we
wash.
bring it up here a lot.
As a matter of fact. So, did anyone have any reservations before anyone in the family? Like,
we were, when we knew it was going to happen, we were sitting on my front steps, and my dad sat us down, and he's like, look, do you guys really want to do this? What are you thinking? And he goes, well, my thought's this, our life is right here, and if we get on television, it could go here, it could go here, but at the end of the day, our family's going to be here, we're going to be safe, we're going to stick together, and that's what it's really all about. And because of that, we weren't really all that stressed. Okay. But as time kind of went on, I think you saw a lot of the relationships deteriorate and go in one direction or the other. And what I always tell people is, TV doesn't necessarily change who you are, at your core, but it might speed it up, and if you're a certain type of person that's going to kind of, whether it is like forget everybody around them or be out for themselves, that's going to happen. If you're a loyal type, you're just going to be more loyal as time goes on. And that's how I think we always operated, just stick together, stick with each other, and we're on the ride together. And we're in it, we're not of it. You know what I mean?
Right.
TV kind of fits into our life. Like I forget, I'm not even making this up. I completely forget most of the time that we shoot a show.
Yeah.
And then until we get a call saying, hey, look, the preview's on, or this is happening. And like, it's kind of wild. Like you really do forget. You just go back to your real life because, that's what it is.
So there are some things that you shared that we as viewers really appreciated because it makes it real, reality is so fake sometimes, but then there's things that are shared that are really real and people can relate to. So your law school struggles, I give you so much credit for sharing that. Was it something that you shared with your family and then you were like, I'm willing to share this with other people, or did they hear about it the first time? I always wonder that too. Like, do people kind of like, prepare the person that I'm going to mention this on camera just so you don't freak out?
No. I mean, every situation is different, I'm sure, and every housewife, let's say, is different. But, the one thing that was really different about Jersey from the other franchises when they really got going at the very beginning was how involved I think me, Lauren, and Chris were compared to like other franchises that kind of touched on the kids. And because of that, I think it was, season 2, we sat down and we were going to have it was a scene about something that it was like either cleaning my room or I was supposed to be getting like yelled at about something or like, not that it's set up. It was just something, we were having a conversation about something. And I got the letter from the law school saying that I wasn't going back. And I got it and I knew what it said because they weren't sending a letter otherwise. And I said, all right, I said, guys, just set them up. I was like, just like, and I told her on camera. I was like, you know what, because it's here and we can't run away from this stuff. And, just by looking at me, she knew what was up. And Mom and I had like a really like brief 30-second conversation right before. She was like, are you sure you want to do this? And she said, look, good or bad, we put it out there. And that's what this is about. And a lot of it was because I knew that one day, 20, 30 years down the line, if I have kids that are going through something, that, this letter I was holding in my hand was going to be the catalyst towards whatever it was I was going to build in the future. And that's how I had to think about it. And at the time, that's like a really nice poetic way to think. But like, I was like, oh man, this is the worst thing in the world when it happened,
Right.
But we just kind of went all in.
So you have no regrets sharing it. You shouldn't.
No, not even a little bit.
Good.
No.
Did you receive a flood of letters from thousands of lawyers saying you dodged a bullet?
Yes. Well, the crazy part about it is I actually, and not a lot of people know this, I'm actually on an episode of Snapped.
Oh, really?
How crazy is that? Yeah, there's a murder case that I worked on when I was in college. I worked for a really big New York attorney who had some insane cases. Like he defended Joran Vandersloot and all these like really, really wild cases in New York. And the Lilo Brancato case was the second one I worked on. That was a kid from Bronx Tale. So, but the one before was this woman named Melanie McGuire who basically, long story short, ends up on Snapped and, was accused of murdering her husband and she got convicted later on. And I worked on that case for almost 2 years and went to the trial and I'm sitting behind her and they cut to the court TV stuff. This is way before Housewives. And they cut to the court TV stuff and I'm sitting behind her. Like, we would be talking and stuff. And I always tell everybody she was like the sweetest person on earth.
Oh, isn't that crazy?
But, I think it's 30 years. She got 34 years. She got convicted or something like that.
Oh,
it's
wow. So
crazy.
you've had a lot of experience. You've learned a lot.
Yeah. It was pretty wild. But, to answer your question directly, like every single one of my friends that I was in law school with were like, you dodged a bullet. And in my gut, there was something that was like, all right, you know what? This is okay.
Yeah.
And the reason I wanted to go to law school to begin with was because I always kind of wanted to be like a, really diverse, portfolio kind of just a business person where I can wear a lot of hats. That's my thing. Like, we got into the attention deficit stuff on the show as well, which was all very real, but I never made as big of a deal of it as like, if no one told me, hey, this is like where you're supposed to be in high school or college, whatever, I wouldn't have known. I just figured I would have just done things the way I do them. And I'm perfectly comfortable with that.
Right.
Like, it's not like a crutch, So because of that, I shift gears really, really quickly. And when I'm working on a lot of different things, it kind of plays into that. Like I get re-energized, so I've got, a business now where I've got 10 different companies that I work with on a day-to-day in a lot of different ways, either things I've personally invested in, stuff that I'm like on a monthly retainer type deal. So it's fun.
And it works to your advantage. You have to do the things that you...
I love it.
Right.
Yeah,
so if you're working on a bunch of different things, that's when you thrive as opposed to someone who's like just being a lawyer.
Yeah. And it's like, I always say it's value driven, and I look at businesses like people. That's my number one rule. One of the recent lessons I've learned in business is I have to absolutely love who I'm working with because I don't feel like I'm working when that happens. It's just, this is what I feel like doing today, and the majority of companies that I'm that I'm into, I don't take a paycheck from. You only make money when they make money, and I like that. Because we're invested in it together. So the show helps me with to allow myself to jump in with these companies early on and not have to take money from them and see what happens. And I love it.
Awesome. So
I don't shut up, by the way. If you
no,
guys
we love it.
You're the perfect guest.
And we were talking earlier about how you've done some shows before this with your whole family, and they don't let you get a word in edgewise. So this is
right?
your opportunity.
No,
It
it
really
was just
is
like,
your
you know,
spotlight.
we've had a lot of it's tough when you're with Christopher, because Chris is he's so funny, man. And like, it's like intimidating because I am definitely the punching bag of the family, so.
We said he's the Melania of the.
He
There's
is.
one Melania in every
there is.
family.
Yeah, Chris is the Melania. He'll be very happy to hear that. Chris, you're the Melania. But he's
Comedy
funny.
relief. So with your businesses, we got to see you delving in last season on Manzo'd with getting into do we call it pot, weed, marijuana industry. Are you still involved in that at all?
Yeah, well, I mean, in a roundabout, I was never technically speaking involved in marijuana, right?
Right. So it was the chemical to help grow the plants, right?
So basically,
Okay.
I got involved. The very first company I ever invested in my entire life is we have a nutrient, we call it Super NDS, but it's a nutrient activator in plants. So short, it's like stuff you spray on a plant and makes it grow bigger.
Miracle Grow for
Pretty
weed.
much. Pretty much. But like, it's all natural. It's really, really cool. It's
Yeah.
the stuff that's very, very hard to find. And we, came up with a really great complex that works, and we got super excited about it. So when you have plants that grow bigger, you sit back and you say, okay, well, who can really benefit the most from that? And you would think almost everybody, but getting a bigger tomato, let's say, isn't necessarily as beneficial than if you're a marijuana farmer and you have X amount more ounces to sell, so that's where a lot of the value was. And those people came banging on our door really, really fast. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, let's just go out there and check it out. What do we think? And while I was there, it just kind of, to me, I really respect the industry. I think there's a lot of really interesting stuff going on out there, and there's like hemp oil is a really good example. Like there's a lot of cannabis oils that help kids with seizures, so it's interesting to see all the different directions it's growing in, no pun intended, but like, for me, it was just too big of a risk. There's plenty of other stuff that gets planted on the ground for right now, so.
How about the Little Colonel? Are you involved with that family business?
No,
or?
not at all.
Okay.
Not at all, no.
We were just wondering. So
Yeah, no, BLK, I left BLK about 2 years ago. I wanted to do my own thing, and just for a whole list of reasons, I'm not involved with it.
But you are still involved in the plant growing, but just not pot.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
yeah. That we just didn't go in the
So what is the name of the business?
So we have a company called Root Organics,
Okay,
with Manila and
okay.
Kyle, who I don't shout out enough, by the way. Manila and Kyle.
Aw.
But we were just, we bootstrap it, man. And we were talking before, like one thing I learned from Housewives was, I thought a lot of the promotion of some of the stuff we got into, for a lot of different reasons, a lot of different pressures that we had, were kind of like over the top. And with Manzo'd, me and Chris kind of looked at each other and we're like, you know what? Like, let's just do a good show. Like, let's just show up, talk about stuff that's going on in our life. And the weird part about it was, we would hear at the end of it, well, what do you guys do? Do you even work? Do you even work? And I'm like, all right. So when we work and it's like a show about what we've got going on, and everyone's like, oh, hey, like we're tired of hearing about it.
Right.
But so that was kind of ironic in its own way. But that company is really close to my heart for a lot of different reasons. So Mandel and Kyle are a little younger than me. They're my partners in that. They have a little girl, London, who's like the cutest thing ever. Aww. I call them so much, she has a little toy phone that she named Albie. She thinks the phone is called Albie. Like, Albie's ringing. Like, it's not like I'm not a person. Like, she just thinks that's the word for phone.
So
So literally, we just kind of bootstrapped it up. I stayed in their basement four nights last week.
Oh,
and
wow.
Just walking through different farms and stuff, dealing with farmers. And this is a world for me I never expected to be in. But we don't really get scared, you know. And I'm involved in a lot of things I never really expected to be in. TV, one of them.
It's amazing to see what it takes to start a business, and I feel like you have that from the Brownstone. Like, it took to build that. It's like it's in your genes.
Yeah. So to me, like, I am a big believer in, just kind of taking possession of your own life. And I got that really, I mean, my dad's a good example, but I got a really good conversation. I had a really great conversation with a businessman that I really, really respect. This guy, Nick, he's actually my attorney. And we work together. He's big in the restaurant world. We work together on a lot of restaurant deals and some other like product deals. So Nick said to me one day, is like, that he had a job offer, and his dad said to him he was going to take it. And he said, well, that's your price. He's like, what do you mean? He's like, on your potential, that's your price. He's like, you're basically telling somebody this is what you're worth, and you're saying yes. And that really stuck with me, to take a job and for somebody to tell me, hey, look, you're going to work at these hours, you're going to do this job. And then in a few years, you get to sit over there. And then if you do good over there, you get to sit over there. It's just not how I'm built.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like it.
And I want to take on some real things, you know, and I get excited to wake up every day. I don't remember the last time my alarm went off and it wasn't like 2 or 3 hours after I'd already been up, because I'm excited, you know, and it's not just with this, you know, I realized that, you know, you got to take a step back, and in your personal relationships too, like dating. Like I just wanted to be super, super happy with me first, you know, and I didn't like the way I looked. So like hit the gym, you know, I didn't like how my relationship stuff was going. All right, well, how am I contributing to that? And work was the same thing. And, you know, that's really where I'm at now, and I love it.
Well, speaking of relationships, do you still talk to Brittany?
No, I haven't talked to Brittany in a while. No, you know what's crazy? That whole thing, I really do think of everybody that I've ever been in a relationship with, I think she's probably the most misunderstood. She and I went through a lot together. She's a very, very, very sweet person. I think that, you know, when you judge a book by its cover type of a thing, and she's the type of person that it's really easy to discount. You know, she's got a great heart. She's got a great personality, a great sense of humor. And I don't think a lot of people on the show like gave her that, you know, and we don't talk. It kind of is what it is. It's one of those things that doesn't, you know, it's not meant to be. It's not meant to be.
Right.
But I'm not the guy that sits back and says like, oh, you know, I have to hate you now. Like that's kind of how I guess it depends on how things go down. But you know, she's I'm sure super happy now and all that. So I don't have any issues with Brittany at all.
What about you? Because we had some lovely ladies tweeting and they wanted to know if you're currently single.
Sips cup. No, you know what? I think my last relationship, I think, put things in perspective for me where, you know, I was looking for my happiness in other people. And I was kind of like watering myself down to whether it was make other people happy or saying, oh, hey, like, you don't like me this way, let me do this. Or if you're unhappy, I'm unhappy. And I realized that, you know, that's not a way to live. You know, I have to be 1,000% confident and happy with myself, and I wasn't. You know, I was allowing other people to define me, or a job to define me, whatever it was, and I didn't really take the time to get to know me personally. And I took a giant step back, and like, you know, the most convenient excuse in breakups is like, you know what, it's time for me to just kind of like do me and look out for me and put some time into myself, and it's like bullshit. Like, I don't know if I'm allowed to curse or anything.
Yeah, you are.
Like a week later, you're dating somebody else. I really, really did that. I took a step back and said, I'm not going to date anybody. Like, I just don't want to do this right now. It's just not the smartest thing for me. And I've gone, you know, months and months and months with that headspace and said, all right, well, I just want quality everything. And that's really where like even the working out piece of things kind of came into play, because you take these things that you're like emotionally addicted to, whether it's like, you know, pasta and bread in my case, and like, you know, all right, well, is this like serving me anymore? And it wasn't, you know? So, okay, well, it's going to suck for a little while. You know, you're going to have people look at you like you're a little nuts. Like I stopped drinking, I stopped going out, and I said, I'm going to throw everything I have into work and just feeling good about me. And now it's kind of like, all right, well, if it's not broke, don't fix it, because everything's finally falling into place. You know what I mean? So, you know, I'm taking my time.
Nice.
I'm
So
taking
you're
my
single.
time. Well, let's put it this way. The next time you see me with somebody, it'll be it. Let's put it
Okay.
that way.
Oh, very nice.
Your mom will be so happy.
Yeah.
So I saw a great before and after of
Mm-hmm.
you. Is it like a new workout regimen that you were doing? It was like on the internet. It was like, you have to see Albie's new abs, and I was like, that is a great before and after.
It's so funny. Yeah, that was, I didn't know that was coming either. I went on Twitter one day and there was the link, and I was like, you know, it was cool, you know, for me for a lot of different reasons. But I linked up with this trainer, Roger Covington. He has a company, Core Rhythm Fitness in New York, and I knew Roger for years. And Roger has this diet where you do your analysis. So you sit back and you pee in a cup. And
I've heard of this. Okay.
does like this thing. He puts a stick in it and lets you know when your body's in ketosis. And like you get these allergies that may not produce, like, let's say hives, for example, but your metabolism can't break it down. And one of mine is pork, which is insane, because for like an Italian, that's the worst thing in the world. You know what I mean? It's terrible.
Fern's over here looking very surprised.
It was like finding out that like my parents weren't my real parents. It was really bad.
Right.
And I sat back and I was like, okay, well, you know, you get put on this diet where you do nothing but the certain proteins and certain vegetables that you can eat. And then, you know, you add in things little by little and you work out like a maniac. And it worked, you know, and it's fun. Like for me, what everyone says that's kind of weird is, oh, it's such a change, you know, or you know, new abs. A lot of people were talking about, and I'd say no, you know, that stuff's always been there. You know, and I've always been super, super vocal. Like I overshare, like on Instagram and like Periscope and stuff. Like it's way too much. Like
Don't stop.
it's like therapy. But like, you know, for me, that's what's always been there. But you know, there's just all these layers of just crap that prevents you from seeing it. And that was the biggest thing. Like there was a lot of anger like in me when I was starting the program. Like whether it was, okay, so-and-so doubted me, I want to prove them wrong type of thing, or, you know, who thinks someone else is like, you know, whether you've got somebody that's moving on type of nonsense, that halfway through, like my trainer said to me, look, you know, this has got to be about you, you know, and that's what Roderick's amazing. We filmed with him this year, and we ended up, and this is how a lot of things in my work life end up coming together. We end up working together because the diet is like so insanely impossible to do, you know, if you're not really, really on top of your eating. And I travel a lot. So I said, look, you really need a meal prep. And I ended up bringing in this company, most Jersey name ever, Eat Clean Bro.
I love it. That's
they're
cute.
amazing.
So
Jamie and
cute.
Kayla, who's awesome, you know, that I've partnered with them on this. And we basically took the Roderick plan and are packaging it up to make it, you know, easy and affordable for anybody to try. So I'm pumped up.
Sounds like a good business because people can, you know, meal plan, but when you're traveling and you're working a
tough.
million hours, yeah, it's hard.
It's really, really tough. And what's crazy about it for me too is I grew up in catering. So like
Right.
this was to me like the intersection of like, I actually, it was so strange because when we first wanted to do this, I sat back and I was like, oh my God, like, you know, what's my father? Like, you
Right.
know, there's so much that in the restaurant business that a lot of people just kind of wouldn't immediately assume, you know, and obviously like, you know, the more stuff you're buying, the better quality you can buy and stuff like that. So these guys were incredible. They have an amazing story. I'm really excited for people to meet them on the show also. But the food's really, really great. Caroline Manzo from the Real Housewives of New Jersey was my first guinea pig.
Really?
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I think I saw
yeah.
some of her social media posts
Yeah,
talking
she's-
about it. Yeah,
she's
and it
gonna
was
start
like
next week,
hashtag
yeah.
Caroline loses 30 pounds.
No,
and
she already, like, you know, we did a lot of the
Wow.
cooking, but now it's like the final, the actual prep stuff that's going to get delivered, she's getting. And, you know, until then it was like a lot of the recipes and stuff. So I'm pumped.
Oh, yay.
I was going to say, it must have been so hard, like Sunday dinner with your family and you're not eating what they're eating.
terrible.
Terrible, but no,
No
then you had your
gravy, no
mom with
bread.
you.
Well, when mom said that she was going to do it, it was like, you know, it makes my life so much easier. And,
Right.
you know, you have to be really, really disciplined.
Yeah.
And that's what I've learned now. Like, you know, I tell a lot of people, you know, being selfish is weirdly like the key to a lot of things, because when you go internal and you take care of yourself first, everybody else kind of falls in line, which is kind of counterintuitive, you know, and, you know, the better you're feeling about yourself and your own situation, you know, the better of a position that you're in to address whatever's in front of you, you know. So when mom got hurt, she hurt her foot and she couldn't walk around. You know, obviously we have the health scare on the show. She was kind of like, look, you know, I want to get better. And I put her on the phone with Roderick literally the same day. So, and he was awesome, you know,
great.
and
Was she
getting
able to
everything
work
going.
out with?
Well, she's swimming.
Okay.
So,
oh, okay.
you know, that, and she's like really grown to love that whole thing.
Awesome.
And then, you know, I'd love to get Vito on it eventually. We'll see what
Aw,
happens.
how are they doing?
They're great. They're great. Lauren and
I
Vito
saw
are
that
great.
they just bought a house.
They did.
Oh
They
my
did.
God, that's so exciting.
It's making me feel really old. You know,
Oh, yeah.
It is. You know,
No, I'm with you.
it's
Because I'm in
just-
my 30s now. And like when stuff happens in other people's lives and you haven't done it yet, you're like, wait, are we supposed to be doing that already? I'm old.
It's a double whammy. You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy for me because it's my best friend from college and it's my
And
sister.
your little sister.
Yeah. So like, I'm like, wow, like, you know, you get it from both sides, number
Mm-hmm.
one. And, you know, you have this image in your head of how you want life to play out, you know, and, you know, I want my kids and, you know, hopefully one day Lauren's kids and Chris's kids to all grow up around in the
Mm-hmm.
same neighborhood at the same time, you know, and we had the most amazing cousins ever.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a big thing that I want in life. So when I see them making those
Yeah.
real big material steps, I'm kind of sitting around like, you know,
Where did they choose? Are they halfway between Vito's parents and your parents?
oh no,
or?
not it's 90-10. Like, you know, they're
okay,
right
okay.
up. They're like 10 minutes away from mom and
Of
about
course.
like 45 minutes from Vito.
Of course, because you know Caroline's like, excuse me.
Oh, forget it.
I need to see my
Oh,
grandbabies.
yeah, no
Of
question.
course. Was it hard for you when they started dating? Because there's only one way for a good right? A good outcome is if they end up together. If they don't end up together, one of
It's
them's
a
gonna
nightmare,
be.
right?
Were you so nervous?
Not nervous so much as I was like, I don't think a lot of people fully understood, like, I used the word sacrifice, and that's what it was, because to step away from Vito would have been stepping away from the rest of the college guys. And I said to Vito, I said, listen, you are literally the last person in the world I want my sister to date. The last. I said, but you're the first guy I'd want her to marry. I said, so don't do this if it's not going to be the type of thing where, you're going to take it seriously, because, that's just kind of, it's not going to end well for me and you.
Right.
And he did, and weirdly, what a lot of people don't know, I might have said this on the show a couple times. When I introduced Lauren and Vito, I said to Lauren, here's the guy you're going to marry. My exact words.
Oh, was it on camera?
No, it was before the show.
It was
It
your
was like
first day of
sophomore
college,
year.
right?
It was
Were
my
you
sophomore year of
roommates?
college.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I walked him up. And you know what's so weird? All of us remember the story and remember me saying that, but we remember it in 3 different places. So weird. Lauren remembers it in the dorm. I remember it in front of Lauren's bedroom, which ended up being Vito's bedroom. So many years
right.
later. So, but
And how's Aunt Dina? Things are good?
I haven't talked to her.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, with me, like, I'm pretty simple.
Yeah.
Like I don't, I kind of stay in my own lane.
Yeah.
And it is what it is.
And you have 9 other aunts and uncles, right?
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous.
So
10 others. Yeah.
Chris is your mom's brother, right? So have you guys spoken to Jacqueline or Ashley about the baby just being born?
Yeah, I
the other
texted
day?
Ashley before I got here. Me and Ash were me and Ash are super close.
Good.
And she came into a family that is obviously really, really tough
Tight.
to kind of get into.
Thick as
and
thieves.
yeah, of course, at a really, really rough age.
Yeah.
And we just grew super close, and she actually ended up again marrying a guy that I graduated high school with.
No.
Yeah, I keep saying I'm like the best thing that ever
Small
happened to this family. I'm like, you know what I mean? Like I'm the hub.
You're a real matchmaker, and you didn't know that you would be.
I didn't set him up. But Pete's a great guy, and they sent me a bunch of pictures already. And in true Ashley style, like not even 24 hours out of the womb, like she's got like it's in like the leopard blanket.
Yes,
in its first
course.
photo shoot, like wasting no time. She's got a
Jersey
full
baby.
face of makeup, but but I'm super happy for her. I
Nice.
think she's actually gonna be a great mom.
How many aunts and uncles do you have? Do you have just Tommy on your dad's side?
No, there's my Aunt Patty, who really amongst all my aunts, my Aunt Patty and my Aunt Franny are my 2
Aunt
go-tos.
Franny.
Aunt Franny's the best.
love
You've seen her
that
on the
name.
show. And then there's Uncle Kenny, Uncle Tom, my dad and Aunt Patty on the one side, and then there's 11 on
Amazing.
my
And you
my
still have
Larita
your
side.
grandparents, right? Nettie.
On the Larita side, yeah.
Yeah. Nice. And is there anyone who's, if the cameras are there, they're like, we don't want any part of it? Is there anyone who's against the show?
You know what? My theory is always the same thing. So, like, when we're filming, I'll have friends that will make a stink out of it. Like, Chris and I will have a couple of guys that'll come over and be like, listen, I don't want any part of the cameras. I'm like, oh, I'm sure they're going to be really, really upset. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is not that serious. Like, if you're going to be, like, this is not the type of show, especially Manzo'd, like, you're as involved as you want to be.
Right.
And I think, what's really fun for me is you guys see a lot of Olivia this year, which is my little cousin. We do the Periscope stuff all the time. Like, I'm obsessed with Olivia. She's amazing. And so, we have some members of the family that just genuinely don't want anything to do with it, and that's not that big of a deal. And some of them that do. So it all depends.
You must love doing Manzo'd over Housewives, right? Because it's so fun. It's such a fun show, as opposed to seeing your mom fighting with people. Like, that had to be so hard.
I like to say that we're like the Advil that takes away the migraine you get from watching Housewives,
There's a lot of good
I would agree.
metaphors.
Well, I've had a lot of time to think about this stuff.
Good.
No, it's Housewives was a really anxiety-filled show.
Yeah.
For a lot of different reasons, it was you take it personally, and I talk to Frankie Catania a lot about this now. So Frankie's Dolores' son.
Our
So,
favorite.
Frankie's great, right?
We love Frankie.
That's my boy. Well,
He
we
posted
know
an
Frankie
adorable
since,
picture when he was little, and you were
Yeah.
an adult. Like, you've known him forever, right?
Yeah, we've known Frankie and Dolores since, like I had that one really funny story that we were like 16, 17 years old. I was throwing a party in the back of my mom's house. They were away in Puerto Rico. And I had a party, and I had like ice luges from the Brownstone, the whole thing.
God, I love
I would have
it.
gotten in so much trouble, and Aunt Dina came walking around the back, and she goes, "What's going on here?" I said, I'm having a party. Like, I go, I'm just having a good time, like whatever. And I actually had called my parents, like they knew. So I was kind of like, I was like puffing my chest out a little bit. Like, this was my moment, And she said, well, what am I supposed to do? I said, you're supposed to call Dolores and come back. Because like, you know, we were all super tight back then, you know? So they're amazing. And, you know, it's a new experience. It's tough, too. Like, you change your life literally overnight.
What was your advice to him?
Just have fun with it, and remember that, like, you know, there's going to be a life after this, and it's not that serious. Like, that's the biggest thing. Like, people are going to forget about it. And when you're in that moment and there's a big argument and someone's saying this about this, you just got to kind of go with the flow. And there are certain people that are just obviously really, really obsessed with this stuff. And, I think that if you just kind of stay grounded and have a good time with it, you know, you'll be fine. And Frank's like one of the smartest kids I know. His sister Gabby's like amazing. As far as families go, I think they're as well equipped as anybody to handle it. So they'll be great.
I have to say about the Jersey kids, you're all, you know, turned out decent and good. Like they're all good kids. All the Jersey parents are great parents. They all turned out good.
It's the only world where like the bar that everyone sets is decent. Like if you clear decent coming off of a reality show based in Jersey, like you did great.
Right.
Well, you know, I think it's like good old fashioned like helicopter parenting. It's like working out for the Jersey kids.
Right. That's so funny.
I want to know, are we seeing Greggy Bennett, our favorite this season?
You are. You should have Greg in here.
We would love to.
You
We're
really
huge fans.
You have to.
We love him.
He's like, you know, he can't help himself. He loves this stuff.
Oh God,
yeah, he's so like the biggest Housewives fan alive.
Oh, forget it. Yeah, he still live tweets and all that stuff. And
we live for his tweets.
Love it.
He's something. You know,
Greggy, come see us.
Yeah, please, we love you. What was it like with him? Like he must have loved being your roommate.
Oh, forget it. Yeah, well, the thing was, like, me and Greg became friends. This is a really funny story. So, we obviously went to college together. So, like, if you think about it, and this is actually a true story too. We're gonna be here forever. But like, it was in the same hallway. It's me, Greg, Vito, and Lana Del Rey, in college.
Stop it.
How weird is that?
In the same dorm.
Stop it.
And I didn't know her. Greg apparently did. But so we all went to school together, and Greg had this gossip blog. It was like the Perez Hilton Forum, where he would just torture people, like rip people apart. And it was like a big thing, like who is FU Rez and all this stuff. And Greg, one day, there was this girl that I was like obsessed with. And we're flirting at a bar one night, whatever, and we start dating, and like we're like 3 or 4 days into it, and I get a text from Greg, and he says, "Hey man, listen, so there's this guy, and he's trying to let's say her name is
Marie.
You know why? Here's the thing. I just went to like a different name, and it was the name of an ex-girlfriend. I went to a different name. So I was like, I'm trying to protect, you know, whatever. Let's say her name is Ashley. So like, all right, you know, I see Ashley, and there's this guy hitting on her. What do you want me to do? I said, well, you get in there. Like, you got to make sure this doesn't happen. So he goes and plays full-blown defense. And at the end of it, he starts acting super, super drunk. This guy walks them all the way back to their dorm, and Greg faked sick so that she would have to take care of him. And the kid was like all frustrated, whatever, and he leaves. And I was like, I'm going to stick with this guy for a while. He's
Greg
cool
Bennett
dude.
is a good friend.
He's the best, right?
What a sweetheart. Yeah. I'm still blown away by Lana Del Rey living in
Wow,
New York.
right?
That's pretty crazy.
It is.
And who was that? Billy Joel's daughter. You ever talk to her?
Well, you know what? She sent me when that episode aired. It was the last time we spoke. She sent me a really nice message just saying she thought the episode was cute. And but no, she like that whole family. They were like super, super down to earth. And we didn't meet Billy, but we met her mom, and just like really, really nice people. And you know, we had fun. It's really weird though, because you bring up something like that, and I say to myself, that feels like it was so long ago, because it was.
Yeah.
And we've been doing this for like, it's almost a decade now.
Yeah.
Which is kind of wild to me, because it never stops feeling like weird.
Yeah.
You know? So
Yeah.
it still feels kind of fresh, but it's been a long time.
I hope everyone listens to this, because you're so reflective. Like that's such a great quality, that you're like really introspective and reflective, and like say like what you learned from everything. I love that. We love that stuff.
Well, we can just go. We have
I know.
8 minutes. We can go compliments the whole 8 minutes. I can sit through that all
no, but
day.
it's true.
No, I'm kidding.
We've interviewed a lot of people. Not everybody's like that,
Yeah.
so we can really relate to
It's
that.
fun, man. And look, we say it all the time. We are talentless individuals. Like, we have
But you're
nothing
not.
going on. But this, I feel really, really lucky to have done all this stuff, and I think we're never gonna fully appreciate it until it's definitely, you know, years in the rear view, and we have kids, and like they say, hey, what was, like, for me to go watch and see what my dad was like when he was 22 years old, you know, would have been either the best or worst thing ever.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm gonna have that, and that's pretty cool.
Amazing.
Does it feel like, I feel like a lot of people say, oh, we're so lucky to have all these memories on camera to look at in years to come, like it's this amazing photo album. Do you feel that way about doing the show?
Yes and no. I think there's also so much of it that you kind of forget, you know, a lot of things you've done that were super, super cool that you'll probably look back on and appreciate. But like, you know, even doing stuff like this to me is so much fun. Like, in a lot of ways, it's more fun than the show because you don't get reflective on a lot of the things that have happened on the show, you know, but there are experiences that like I couldn't have dreamed of. Like, we own our own bar. Like, that's wild. Like, you know, those are one of the things that we said, oh, hey, when we're really, really successful in our 40s, 50s, let's open a bar together. And, you know, now we've got 4 of them. Like, that's crazy for me,
How
you know?
cool.
So
Wow.
it's pretty wild.
What are the names of them and where are they?
So it's just with the Ainsworth. So
yeah, we were talking about Littletown, right? So explain
yeah, it
that.
started as Littletown, and then so Littletown merged with this company called Page. With basically the Ainsworth is their best known brand, and they're out in New York, Jersey, and in Las Vegas. So they kind of, we were involved in so many different brands that like it just made sense when we sat down with Matt, who's the founder of Ains. He was like, look, you know, why don't you kind of come with us, make a run for it, and see what we can do together. And we love the brand, so we were like, you know what, screw it, let's do this. And we partnered up with them for the Hoboken one, obviously, and then we expanded into New York into the ones they already have, and we'll see what the future brings. But they're an amazing group, and you know, we're lucky.
Yeah, really nice.
Fern and I have a question. It is Housewives related. This season specific. Do you know who owns Rails Steakhouse? We're dying to know. We're trying to crack this case.
Well, I will tell you the truth. I actually don't watch it,
okay.
Oh.
Okay.
so I don't know what Real Steakhouse
Interesting.
is.
So they just keep filming all these scenes at this steakhouse called Rails, and we're like, what
Where
an
is it?
interesting name.
Waco, which is part of
Oh,
Montville,
well, that's got to
right?
be. I mean, it's got to be a Teresa connection somehow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay then. All right.
But you know, like but you know, getting places to, you know, restaurants especially for that show, to be willing to bring everybody in, it takes a lot at this point because I think we've torn apart half of the restaurants in Northern
They
Jersey.
could have a table flip.
Yeah,
so.
there's a list that there's like a body count for restaurants. in that
Have
show.
you been back to the table flip place?
I have once.
Did it give you bad memories?
They you know what's funny? Whenever I try and watch Housewives now, it does bring back a little anxiety. And I don't, it is a very different kind of a feeling.
Yeah.
But you know, there's also a lot of fun we had on that show. You know, the trips are always the best.
Yeah.
Well, how about filming in Italy? Was that last season of Manzo that you guys went to
Last
Italy?
year, yeah.
Is that just nuts being in a different country and trying to get everyone to agree, like, we're bringing cameras in, we're going in?
Well, I get like really bad social anxiety when we're filming, like outside of anything. And if you ever notice, like if you watch the trip episodes, I get really, really weird and I just stop talking because you know, you're out in a different country. There's a bunch of cameras around. You don't know what people are going to do. You have no idea. So like certain people are totally like, Chris could care less. Like, you know, I don't like filming in bars, anything. So when we go to a different country, yeah, I'm a little freaked out, but you know, you get to stay in amazing places, and there are plenty of scenes where, like, you know, you guys are just by yourselves and you can kind of be calm and be fun with it. But we did the RV trip. It's probably my favorite trip that we ever did was the RV trip for Housewives. Italy last year is right up behind it, and this year we do a couple like really brief ones. And, you know, there's like always a big debate at the beginning of the year, like, hey, where are we going to go? And what are we going to do? And like, we've kind of thrown around like a lot of really crazy ideas. Like, I want to do a safari so bad.
Oh,
that
that'd
would
be
be
amazing.
You know what I
awesome.
mean? But we'll see what
That
happens.
would be awesome. Well, we don't have too much time left, so please tell us where all of the active businesses, where they can find them, and where we can find you.
Instagram's the easiest thing. I'm not throwing a million, like I'm not a plug machine to me.
Okay.
If it
All
comes
right,
up, it
so
comes up. So
Instagram.
Instagram's the easiest. I'm actually out here. One funny thing, I haven't played basketball since I was like 10. I'm out here playing in a charity basketball tournament with my friend Brian. He has a really great organization called Aces in Action. They're giving back to Stand Up to Cancer. So we're excited about
Oh,
that.
nice.
wonderful.
Oh, that's great.
I'll be
Glad
at
to
the
hear
Staples Center getting my you-know-what handed to me.
On
in a few
Sunday.
Can
days.
people buy tickets to see you there?
Yeah, it's right after the Sparks game. But you guys should come.
Okay,
You guys should
all
come.
right,
It'll be a fun
yeah.
time.
How do they get tickets? So you go to...
Well, if acesinaction.com will have the
Okay.
all the info, but
Perfect.
it's, you know, come, but like be easy on me.
Okay.
Be
Well,
nice.
we're really looking forward to Manzo'd. That starts September 11th.
September 11th, we're back. And we're right after Housewives, so
Nice.
a double
Perfect.
episode.
Perfect.
And no, we're excited, man. The first 2 episodes are good. It's pretty. We go to this haunted prison. It's insane. It's gonna be.
It looks like you have a lot of adventures this season. Like a lot of.
This year, yeah. Like I think this year, Bravo was kind of like, you know what, we've just had it. Like let them just do what they want. You know what I mean? But yeah, it's definitely the most fun year we've ever had.
Nice.
And I think of all the TV seasons we've ever shot, this is the one I'm most excited about because we have the most fun this year. I think we the biggest personal movement, the biggest personal evolution happens this year. So there's a lot of good things.
Personal evolution, like that's what we love about you. I have not to sound like an old married lady from New Jersey, but God bless you. You're such a catch and like such a great guy.
Thank you.
You really are.
You guys hear that?
I have
Everyone's
to
listening
say
to
it.
this.
What a great guy you are.
Thank you very much.
Honestly,
No, I'm kidding.
honestly, I hope so many good things happen for you.
Thanks.
Thank you
I
so
hope so
much
too.
for coming in.
And this was fun. I want to come back one day for sure.
Yeah,
And
please
get the rest of the
Yes.
fam when,
And bring
when I'm
Greggy
here.
and the whole
Oh my
fam.
God. It would be so fun if you did a Housewives after show with us.
Oh, I'm down for that.
Yeah. Oh my
We can
God,
do that.
yes.
Yeah.
We can
Feel
do
free
that.
to let us know when you're back in LA.
Exactly.
For sure.
At Albie Manzo on Twitter and
At
Instagram.
Albie Manzo, yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'm Fern Ronay. You can find me at Fern Ronay.
And you guys can find me, Megan Stecher, on Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat, all at Megan Stecher.
Thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you again, Albie.
Thanks, guys.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.